At commencement, each of you who are graduates stands at a major threshold of your life experience. After years of hard work, this is a day where you're encouraged to look forward and see great possibilities for your life, service, and the manner in which you'll contribute to the world. But while commencement is a time of beginnings, it's also a time of reflection. Imagine for a moment all of the support and guidance that you have received over the years from your families and your loved ones. Now imagine, if you can, what your life would have been like without any of that support. Our speaker today lives out his life of vocation by helping dreams come true for those who do not have a village, who do not have a solid, reliable network of home and family support. For you see, William C. Bell is the president and CEO of KC Family Programs, headquartered in Seattle. It is the nation's largest foundation with a mission to provide and improve and to ultimately prevent the need for foster care. Mr. Bell has more than 30 years of experience in the human services field. Before joining the Casey Foundation, he served as commissioner of the City of New York Administration for Children's Services. There, he managed child welfare services, including child protection, foster care, child abuse prevention, daycare, and Head Start, with a staff of more than 7,000 and an annual budget of $2.4 billion. William Bell is the recipient of numerous and well-deserved awards and honors, including the prestigious Vincent DeFrancis Award from the American Humane Association, the Lifetime Service Award from City Year Seattle King County, and the International Rhoda G. Sarnett Award from the National Association of Social Workers. Mr. Bell is a native of Mississippi. He grew up in a family of 12 children. He received his bachelor's degree in biology and behavioral sciences from Delta State University and a master's in social work from Hunter College in New York. A lifelong learner, Mr. Bell will board a plane at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning to return to Hunter College, where on June 2nd he will receive his doctoral degree in social welfare. William C. Bell is a leader of proven distinction. He is a visionary driven by hope and possibility. He is an advocate every day for those without either voice or vote. He is an advocate for those the Scripture calls the least among us. He is an advocate for the children. Please extend a PLU welcome to William C. Bell.
You know, for some, it sounds cliche when you say to yourself, I wonder who he's talking about. I want to thank Dr. Anderson for that welcome and for that introduction. And I'd also like to thank all of those who joined me on the stage this afternoon, and especially to Kelly for your words and for your leadership. And I'd like to just say thank you and congratulations to the class of 2010 and to your families and those who have come with you to celebrate this moment in your life. And as I stand before you this afternoon, I must begin by telling you how grateful I am to be able to catch a glimpse as I look through this blinding light. But fortunately, I had an opportunity to see you as you walked in. And as I look at you, what I see is opportunity. What I see is inspiration. And what I see is hope for a better world. I was talking to someone this past week who said to me that two of their most favorite events in life are weddings and graduations. And they frame that both of those are important to them because they both represent departure from a period of intense preparation.
but they also both represent the beginning of a lifelong process of discovery. And I would be remiss if I didn't also thank my beautiful wife, who's sitting somewhere in the darkness, Doria, as we have embarked upon our lifelong process of discovery. And I've discovered that if I don't mention her, I'll have to mention her when I get home. But as we begin to look at this thing that we call graduation, as we begin to look at this point of departure in your life, I wish that somehow you could stand here and see what I see, that you could look upon those who have come to support you, that you could look upon those who are walking this path with you, and that you could see the promise of tomorrow that exists as you sit here. Because as I look at you, I see the unbridled optimism that makes tomorrow possible in our lives. It's an optimism that some of us in this lifetime never experienced. And as Dr. Anderson talked about the group that I represent, those young people in foster care, optimism is not necessarily at the forefront of their everyday lives. But when I look at you, I also see the down payment that this great university has deposited towards a brighter and a more just America in you. I see the investment that they have placed in the hope that the return will be a more just world that we all can live in. And probably not since the culmination of your high school graduation, or since many of you who are in the professional life, since your last professional achievement, have you been faced with the most critical decision as you are faced with today. As you begin to wrestle with what steps will you take that will prepare you for the rest of your life. Steps that will give shape to meaning. Steps that will give shape to what this world will become because of your presence in it. And steps that eventually will give meaning to your life. The road ahead of you is filled with choices. And the path that you select along the way, or the purpose that you ultimately settle on for your life, are only limited by your imagination. And as an imagination, as I've come to learn about the educational process at PLU, is an imagination that should be greatly enhanced because of this great educational opportunity, this global educational opportunity that you've experienced here. But I want to talk with you just for a few minutes about this world that you're about to walk into. You see, these past 2 decades have been times of unprecedented growth and change in America and across this world. They have also been times of significant unrest and upheaval and contradictions, all of which have emerged from the imaginations of people. In 2001, I witnessed the imagination of those who thought that it was possible to commandeer an airplane and fly it into 2 of the greatest towers in the world, just standing just blocks away. It's amazing to think about the imagination that can go so far down the path of evil, but that same imagination can go further down the path of good. We have experienced in this country an unfettered prosperity with skyrocketing market returns, notwithstanding what we've seen since 2008 to present. But prior to that, we've seen outstanding market returns. We've seen a time of plenty. We saw in 2000, the unemployment rate in this great nation was at 4%, the lowest that it has ever been since the government started tracking that number in the 1940s. We've seen a rapid time of expansion of technology, and especially in the terms of how technology is infused into our day-to-day lives. For many of you, you've grown up as members of the most technologically savvy generation in our nation's history. And for some of you, a cell phone and a camera have always been the same thing. And they've always been able to fit into your pocket. Unlike some of us who know the time when a cell phone looked something like this and couldn't possibly fit into your briefcase, let alone your pocket. And when you think about Facebook and Twitter, you've grown up in a time where the world is your meeting place. And I was talking to someone the other day about Facebook, and as they explained to me what it really made possible, I said, oh, you're talking about the old party line telephone, where everybody could be on at the same time. listening to what everybody else was saying, but I know that it is far more advanced than the party line, but because of somebody's imagination. What used to take days or weeks can now be done in hours, and sometimes in a matter of moment. You see, you live in a world that is changing. You live in a world that will never be the same tomorrow as it was yesterday. The only question that is before you is, what will be your role in that evolution? There's a world waiting for you to place your stamp on it. There's a world waiting for you to find that question that you were destined to answer, to find that injustice that only you were destined to make right. You see, the prosperity and the growth that I referred to earlier has not been experienced by everybody in America. While growth has happened for some, the past decade has also been one of contrast, highlighting the enormous inequities in our society. While many in America have experienced this time of plenty and abundance in the form of financial perspective, there are many other perspectives of abundance and increase that have occurred simultaneously. My hope is that as you move forward with this wonderful opportunity that is before you, that your eyes will not be blind to the abundance of suffering and despair that continues to exist side by side with prosperity in America and in this world. Do you see, the number of children living in poverty has increased to levels never seen before in this history. The number of incarcerated adults in America, and far too many of them incarcerated young men, and many young men of color, has increased far beyond anything we've ever seen in our lifetime. And until the recent federal action, the number of people who were uninsured in this country had reached an epidemic proportion. But during this past decade, we've seen things change. In the year 2000, there were just about 300 billionaires in America. Since 2000, that's increased by almost 50%. There are now about 450 billionaires in America. I'm not one of them, unfortunately. But at the same time that we've seen that increase in richness, we've seen the number of people living in poverty in America go from 31 million in the year 2000 to over 37 million today. And 14 million of those people in poverty are children. The inmate population in America has gone from over 1.9 folks incarcerated as adults in this country to over 2.3 million folks incarcerated as adults in this country. America makes up about 5% of the world population, but about 25% of those incarcerated in this world. And far too many of them are young people who aged out of government foster care. A little over 10%, about 300,000 of the people who are incarcerated as adults in America were raised by the government, only to be housed by the government for 7 to 10 in their adult lives. At Casey Family Programs, we have committed that we will see a change in that population. We have committed to something that we call our 2020 strategy for America's children. And what that strategy is focused on is cutting the foster care system in half by the year 2020. And we've already started to see improvement in that area. And as I pause here for a moment, I want to tell you that I'm sorry if those statistics that I've just given you are a little off-putting to some of you. I didn't come here to depress you on what should be one of the happiest days of your life. But I say those things because my intention is not to depress, but my intention is to call attention. To call attention to the changes that need to occur in this world. To call attention to what you need to focus on, what you have an opportunity to focus on. You see, while you and your families have been anticipating this day for quite some time, the rest of the world has been anticipating your arrival at this moment as well. You see, there's a world that is still in the midst of defining itself and that is waiting for you. There's a world that is anxiously awaiting the wise, anxiously awaiting the prepared, anxiously awaiting the learned, anxiously awaiting the committed, anxiously awaiting the hopeful. There's a world that is anxiously awaiting those who are willing to accept the calling, to find the question that you were born to answer. I know I don't have to remind you of the laudable list of PLU graduates who've gone before you. I've had the good fortune of serving on the board of the Marguerite Casey Foundation with one of your prior graduates, Dr. Bill Fagey. If I remember correctly, I think he was in the class of 57. As I stand here before you reflecting on the current state of our communities and of our nation, I don't see gloom and doom. In spite of those statistics that I've just seen, my picture, my vision is not one of gloom and despair. But what I see is a time for opportunity. What I see is an opportunity for you to make a change. My charge to you today as you prepare to leave these halls of Pacific Lutheran University is that you decide to become a part of the solution. My charge to you is that you decide to live your life as an answer in search of his question. And when you live your life as an answer in search of his question, it's going to require you to become externally focused in your endeavors, as opposed to internally focused in your endeavors. And when I talk about being internally focused, I'll give you an example. My 3-year-old, she's very internally focused. And she's learned well to say to me, "Daddy, that's not how it's done." And when she refers to the television, she refers to it as turns. And if she walks in the room and ESPN is on, she'll quickly let me know that, "Daddy, it's not your turn. It's my turn." And in case I didn't hear her, she is very skilled and adept of repeating herself, because her intent is to get what she wants, because she is internally facing in her endeavors. There's a movie that was in the theaters, I think, in 2009. And I think it actually may be either on cable or in DVD right now. And the title of the movie is My Sister's Keeper. And the central plot of this movie is the story about a little girl who learned that her parents had brought her into this world so that her life could be the answer for her sister's cancer. That in essence, the entire process of conception, gestation, and delivery was so that she could help them answer the question about how do we stop cancer from killing the cells of our daughter. You know, the whole movie is about how this young girl, because her parents had made that decision for her, and how they had decided that this would be the question that her life would answer. The movie is about how she sued them eventually for emancipation, because she did not want that to be the lot in her life. She wanted to have the opportunity to focus on herself. And as this young woman in the movie made a decision about her life, so must you. Is your life meant to answer one or more of the questions that is facing our world today? And if so, are you willing to live the life of sacrifice that is necessary to find that answer? And I ask, are you willing? Because if you are going to be the answer, it will require of you sacrifice. Because you see, the world that we are facing today is at best in a state of recovery. It is at best recovering from a state of individualism that would cause companies to falsify records and conceal losses in the name of profit, even though it meant they would bankrupt their employees and many of their stakeholders. A nation that is in recovery from a state of individualism that would cause many well-respected financial investment experts to live short, temporary lives of luxury on the dollars of those who trusted them, even though it would mean that families would be destroyed and life savings would disappear. A country that is in a state of recovery from a state where the search for individual profit deafens the ears of well-respected businessmen and businesswomen that would result in the collapse of mines or the explosion of oil rigs or the risk filling a gulf with oil and seeing our wild and marine life perish on the shores of our country. You see, it seems that the cancer that was eating the young woman's body, there's also a cancer eating away with us today in this world, in this great country, in the home of the free. this place that everybody wants to come. There's a cancer that is eating away with the way we look at ourselves and the way that we look at each other. Dr. Martin Luther King once said that an individual has not started to live until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. He also said, and I'm paraphrasing here, a man or a woman who has not found that thing for which he or she is prepared to die is not prepared to live. Now, we all know that Dr. King found his question. And we all know that he paid the ultimate price in his quest to answer the question of how will we overcome the racial inequity and racial injustice in America? What will it take? And I don't believe that he was calling upon each of us to be willing to die a physical death in pursuit of our question, although he died a physical death. I don't think that that's what he was challenging us to do. I believe that he meant that we must die to our propensity towards individuality, individual focus, that we must die to our rich history of being internally facing in the way that we address the problems of this world. I believe that he meant that we must sometimes put the needs of others before our own. I believe that he meant that we must be willing to speak power, speak truth to power, even when it means that you're taking on institutions, that you're taking on government, that you're taking on ways of existence and behavior that seems so entrenched that it seems unmovable. I believe that he meant that more of us must be willing to live a life that is dedicated to improving the world for others rather than improving our own opportunity for personal gain. It has been said that a wise man or a woman is one who plants trees, the fruits and the shade of which they will never enjoy. My challenge to you today is to look within yourself. Look within yourself as you go through the next phase of your life. And I don't for one second believe that you will magically walk out of this door and be transformed into super commitment that changes the world immediately. You're going to walk out of these doors and begin to live your life. And as you walk out of these doors and begin to live your life, many of you will go on to graduate school. Many of you will begin families. Many of you will begin work, and you will have jobs, and you will get caught up in all of those things that we need to be caught up in order to exist in this world. But I ask you, as you are getting caught up, don't lose sight of the world around you. Don't lose sight of this precious opportunity that you've been given from this great university. And I would ask you not to let self get in your way. It has been said that we are our own worst enemies and that we will question ourselves and we will begin to focus on how much can one person do to change this thing. And I would just simply urge you not to let your butts get in the way. And I don't mean that kind of butt. I mean, but my job, but my family, but my girlfriend, but this opportunity. Don't let your butts get in the way, because the world is waiting for you. The world is waiting for you to resist the temptation to leave this challenge to the generation that will follow you. As I wish you well on the next phase of your journey, I leave you with this one request, that you live a life in which you are the answer. During the Civil Rights Movement, there was a song that they sang, and it was, "He who believes in freedom cannot rest until it comes." And so I ask you today, if you are willing to accept the possibility that your life was meant to be the answer to one of our challenging questions, then I ask you that you do not rest until you find your question. Because the world is anxiously and patiently waiting your arrival, waiting the opportunity to hear you say, "I'm here." God bless you, and thank you.